What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Vino, man, back again with another banger, man. Today, man, we got a good one, man, a trending one, a controversial, man. Look, man, the big homie Stephen A is finally responding to the other person, Jason Whitlock, bro. After 10 years, man, of just trying to stay quiet, trying to be peaceful, trying to keep the peace, but no more. Stephen A say no more. You know, it's just got to be said. So, you already know, man. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe. You already know what it is. Leave all comments, hateful, like them. I don't care. Leave them. But yeah, let's get into the video. You already know I'm going to put my spittry to this at the end. You already know what it is. But
Jason Whitlock. I said that name. It's not a name I've uttered. I normally don't do that, but it's necessary to do now. I've had enough of that fat bastard, that piece of shit. And I want to make sure that before I go to break, I want anyone out there who watches me, anyone out there who knows me, anyone out there, no matter what you think of me, I want you to remember, I never talk about him. I never talk about my colleagues. I don't do that. This is a first. But it's necessary. And when I say don't talk about them, I mean don't talk about them literally. I don't get in on them like I'm about to do now. I literally called my pastor and asked for his forgiveness and understanding in advance because he's not going to recognize the person he's about to hear. I did the same when I emailed the bosses at ESPN. This is my podcast. I own and operate this. I do what I want on this podcast. But it doesn't mean that I still don't harbor a responsibility to at least give my daytime employers a heads up as to what I'm about to do. My sisters, my nieces and nephews, my boys in the industry, everybody that I could reach out to in time has been warned. It's time for me to address this. I'm only going to do it once. Because this bastard is worth less than a damn cockroach. He wanted my attention. He's got it. The Stephen A. Smith Show. Up next. Don't touch that dial. We'll deal with the fat bastard himself right now. Let's roll. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. By the way, that quote from Aaron Rodgers about Jimmy Kimmel, which initially sparked this whole brouhaha, was, quote, there's a lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, that are really hoping that list doesn't come out. That's what he had said. Couldn't find it for some reason. I apologize. Let me get back to the subject at hand. Ladies and gentlemen, as a black man sitting in this seat, the level of vitriol that I have to absorb is something that I understand 99.99% of the time. You're a former player and you want to crucify me, that's fine. You're somebody that was involved in some kind of public incident that I had to speak on, whether you're the wife or ex-girlfriend or of a former player, whatever, I get it. You're a present-day athlete and you don't like my evaluation of what has transpired before our very eyes and what I'm witnessing, that's cool. But I swear to you, on everything that I love, it's not personal. I'm a sports reporter and sports commentator. That is what I have been throughout my career. It is my responsibility to tell you what I see through my lens, how I feel about it, what my perspective is, etc. It's not like I'm sitting at home with absolutely nothing to do and no obligation to touch on anything, but I feel the need to invoke and ingratiate my thoughts, opinions, etc., upon the world. I actually get paid to do this. And because of that, sometimes my opinions, my thoughts, my feelings, etc., are things that you would not like. But I have never lied to you. Ever. If I wrote a story or I wrote an article, it's based on the things that I've been told, what I've seen, and what I feel. It is rare that I talk about myself on a personal level because my personal life is not anybody's business and I don't get into other people's personal life. It's not something that I do. Many figures in the world of sports find themselves in personal situations, not lawlessness, not unlawful things or anything like that, but there's plenty of situations, Michael, Sherry, Juvie, where I've seen certain things and I turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to it because it's none of my business. And I leave it alone. And one of the other things that I never do, I never attack my colleagues. I might disagree with something somebody says or does, and I might have an obligation to speak on it because it's in the news or whatever, but I don't speak against my colleagues. Once humanity comes into play, that's a given. Here's the other. That's not real work. Think about this for a second. I'm supposed to be covering sports, but I make a career out of talking about my colleagues. That ain't work. That's you finding some slick way to get a check because you can't get a job. That's Jason Whitlock. That's who the hell he is. Now, I have sat back for years, at least 9 to 10 years, saying absolutely nothing about this man. I never uttered the words fat bastard out of my mouth until a few months ago. So that means that the previous 9 years, you never heard me speak on him at all. But now it's necessary. Excuse me. Because you see, if you listen to the fat bastard, I didn't play high school ball, even though my coach's name was Harvey Stoller. It was Thomas A. Edison Vocational and Technical High School. I played there my senior year. I was in a basketball tournament at Fashion Institute of Technology where I dropped 27 points and got a scholarship because the coach came calling me after that and what have you. If you listen to him, I never had a scholarship to Winston-Salem State, even though it's on the books. Just call the university. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an honorary doctorate member. I have an honorary doctorate from Winston-Salem State University because of my contributions to Winston-Salem State. I'm called Dr. Smith. Has something to also do with the contributions that I make because I believe about upliftment. I'm an ambassador for HBCU Week, and I've partnered with Ashley Christopher and Mir Persicki in Delaware and others to generate over 10,000 scholarships in excess of over $65 million in scholarships for African Americans. But this man will tell you I'm lying. He even went so far as to say my autobiography, where I talk about my mother, my father, my sisters, the business, my hiring and firing and rehiring at ESPN. I didn't write it. I didn't write my own memoir, which, by the way, is a New York Times bestseller, something he wouldn't know anything about. Did you know that it's now on paperback? It just came out yesterday on paperback. Do you know that you could go to Amazon.com, StraightShooterBook.com, or a bookstore nearest you to get my book in paperback? Do you know that when people are normally selling 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 copies, I've sold over 400,000? Did you know? But he will tell you, I didn't write it. He's seen my writing. Really? This article is an article written on Deadspin.com. The title, How Jason Whitlock is Poisoning ESPN's Black Grant Land. Because remember, Bill Simmons, who's now at Spotify doing a great job, obviously had Grantland at ESPN, and upon his departure, Jason Whitlock was supposed to take up the mantle and create a black website for folks. This article was written by a Greg Howard, published on April 27th, 2015. The same Jason Whitlock that said he's seen my writing, the same Jason Whitlock that implied that I couldn't write, the same Jason Whitlock that said that I'm lying. What does this man do? Why would I call up this article? There's a plethora of reasons why I would do so, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reasons would be because it's as in-depth as it gets about how scurrilous, how trifling, how despicable this man is. But there's also another reason that I'd pick up this article. Let me read the graph to you that it says. Keep in mind, Stephen A. can't write. This staff, the one Whitlock was praising by way of warnings that if the writers and editors wouldn't align with his vision, he would get rid of them, was not the one Whitlock wanted. The Undefeated, because that was the name of the title before it ultimately became Andscape. The Undefeated was originally meant to attract the best and brightest young black talent in the country, with Whitlock's aim set so high that he at one point seriously tried to recruit the Atlantic's Ta-Nehisi Coates, the sharpest cultural commentator in the business today. As things worked out, though, those young writers comprehensively refused to work with him. So did big-name ESPNers like Howard Bryant, Jemele Hill, and Stephen A. Smith. I couldn't write, huh? While you were on Blaze TV, spewing that bullshit to people. Did you tell them that? Did you tell them how you stood outside of First Take begging me to talk to you? Did you tell them that once this same article in Deadspin came out, weeks later you wrote a lengthy apology to me in an email, begging me to forgive you, pointing out how you were betrayed by this particular writer, so you know how I must feel that you betrayed me? Did you tell the folks that, you bitch? Did you tell them? You fat piece of shit. Did you tell them that? Got the names. We got Jemele Hill. We got Howard Bryant. You want me to bring up the other writers that wouldn't work for you? Why it took you nearly 2 years to get an article out? Because you ran that shit so bad you were running it into the ground? What a disgrace you were to John Skipper, the former boss of ESPN, or the host of others. You want me to talk about that? Because I got receipts. I got the email. Want me to talk about that? Now, just for everybody that wants to understand, how could this possibly be? Because once upon a time, I actually tried to speak up for this damn cretin. I knew he was a piece of shit. But I said, look, maybe he's misunderstood. Why would I do that, ladies and gentlemen? Because sometimes as black folks, we get in our own way. We think that all of us must be of one monolithic thinking, that we need to be completely and totally aligned. And any deviation from that brings into question our quote unquote blackness. Martin Luther King was a man of peace. Malcolm X was by any means necessary. They can't possibly be on the same page. even though their agendas was for the upliftment and the preservation of our race of people. So I understand when we talk about stuff like this, how people can sit up there and say, how did it get to this? How did it get to this? Remember when I got suspended years ago? You know, was out there writing stuff, smiling in my face 1 minute, talking smack about me behind my back, and then ultimately writing it? It was him. Remember when I supposedly used, people were speculating that he used the N-word on the air and all of this other stuff? He was the first one out there trying to say that I did it. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't do it on the air, in my humble opinion. I'm telling you that. However, it's not like I didn't use the N-word when I was off the air, when I was talking to my fellas, or I was talking to other folks who happened to be black. I am not a proponent of using that word often, nor am I advocating that that word be used now. I'm just acknowledging the guilt that comes associated with me in terms of when I was younger. But I was always saying we as black people communicate how we want to communicate with each other. I love John Wooten, who's been associated with the Fritz Alliance, the Fritz Alliance, Fritz Pollard Alliance. Love that man. Love his contributions to the NFL. But when we would get into it in the past on rare occasions, it wasn't that he wanted the eradication of the N-word, because I support that. My issue with him was, hey, you shouldn't be encouraging the NFL to fine us and penalize us for using it amongst ourselves. How can a race of people who actually made the word iniquitous be in a position to punish us for using the word with one another? I had a problem with that, and I stand by that, but I digress. My point is, in bringing up all of that, Jason Whitlock pounced on it because that's what he does. You see, what he does is he's the one that puts himself in front of white folks. The white folks, not all white folks, not most white folks, but the white folks that dare we say may have a problem with black folks. He says, I'm your man. That's what he does. You think I'm lying? Ask ESPN. Ask Fox. Ask the Kansas City Star. Ask them all. Jamel Hill. Rob Parker. Chris Broussard. Skip Bayless. Yours truly. Along with a host of black folks all over this country, every single one of them will confirm what the hell I'm saying about this piece of garbage. Ladies and gentlemen, as a black man, I often told y'all, I cannot imagine as a black man, knowing our history, anything worse than a white supremacist. That is, until Jason Whitlock came along. He's worse than them. He is the worst, most despicable, lying, no good, fat ass human being I have ever known in my life. And I'm going to take a break because I got more in a minute. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on YouTube. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I will remind everybody that as I'm sitting here talking about Mr. Jason Whitlock, first of all, it will never happen again. He's irrelevant. He's not important. He's insignificant, and he knows it. And he did all of this to try and bait me into this, all of this stuff. I know that's how people are looking at it. My family and friends and everybody thinks the same thing. My point is I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I've been holding it in for nearly 10 years. And so there comes a point in time where, at the very least, at least one time, you have to address it. It's necessary. It's important. Okay? And as we sit here today talking about this subject, there's certain things that we just don't need to let go. You know, we just don't need to let go. Because there comes a point in time when enough's enough. And that time has arrived. Getting back into him and to really elaborate extensively on us. Ladies and gentlemen, John Skipper, the former boss for ESPN, wanted to start this website. And if you remember, when the Undefeated first came into existence, it was labeled the premier platform for intelligent analysis and celebration of Black culture and the African American struggle for equality. That's what it was labeled as. Now that I read you that quote, let me give you a quote that this guy, Greg Howard, has a recording of Jason Whitlock saying to his staff at that time. If you're more comfortable working for white people rather than working for me, and that sounds humorous, but it's the truth, fine. This is according to audio obtained by Deadspin back in 2015. Some Black people are far more comfortable answering to a white person than a Black person, no matter how Black they like to pass themselves off to be. Far more comfortable because they know a white person is going to overlook their shortcomings. It's good for a Negro. I'm not about that. But if you're more comfortable working for a white person, I will find a white person for you to work for. We have a higher standard here. Everybody has to get on board with that, or I'm going to find a way to move them someplace else. That was Jason Whitlock. And then he went out and hired a senior writer and editor, Mike Wise, who's white. This is the man that's in charge of Black culture. Why can I say that? And by the way, I'm not casting any aspersions against Mike Weiss. I'm cool with him. I've always been cool with him. He used to work for the New York Times, used to cover the Knicks long before he moved on to the Washington Post. He's a credible journalist. I have nothing negative to say about him. I'm just saying, Black website, but you bring in your white friend. In part because Black folks didn't want to work for you. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, how serious I am? Am I? I have a contract that I negotiated with ESPN and I signed in 2015. I don't know of anyone who has this in their contracts. I had it in my contract, and I have a copy of it, where it specifically stipulates that I never work with Jason Whitlock. It's in writing. No wonder you didn't see him on First Take. You didn't see him on Undisputed with Skip Bayless either. Skip Bayless wouldn't allow him on there. You didn't see him on Numbers Never Lie either. Jamel Hill and Michael Smith wouldn't allow him on there. Christopher Broussard for Fox Sports and Fox Sports Radio. Let me take a moment to tell you about Chris Broussard. If Chris Broussard were not in this industry, do you know where he'd probably be? Probably, because I don't know for sure, but probably be, y'all, in a monastery. He's one of the most religious, God-fearing, decent human beings you will ever encounter. It doesn't get any better than Christopher Broussard. And he can't stand Jason Whitlock. Look around. Don't y'all notice why Black people scurry away whenever this roach of an individual is around named Whitlock? Because we know what he is. We know what he is. Blaze TV, you may not know. Glenn Beck, Dave Rubin, the great one himself, Mark Levin. I bring up Blaze TV, which is where Whitlock works, because I want Blaze TV to understand I'm not talking about you. I know you're a conservative, I get all of that. I'm not judging accordingly. I know Mark Levin well. We have one another on speed dial. We talk all the time. The same applies to Sean Hannity, the Andrew Wilkows of the world. Okay? I talk to these folks. I'm not one of those people that's married to one side or the other. And decent people are everywhere. Be careful that you don't get yourself stained and stenched by Whitlock. He can do that to people. He is the worst. He's not ethical. He's not moral. Clearly, based over what I've told you about me, he's also not factual most of the time. He will lie, he will denigrate, and he will turn against anyone to serve his own good. The real reason, and casting no aspersions on what Blaze TV presents and what it has to offer, the real reason he's there is because he can't get a job anywhere else. He hasn't burnt bridges, he's napalmed them. Call Eric Shanks and Charlie Dixon at Fox. Call Jimmy Pitaro, Burke Magnus, Dave Roberts, Norby Williamson at ESPN. Call them. Call them. Call John Skipper at Whitlock Media. I'm giving you names. I'm giving you names. That's just I already gave you on-air talent names. I gave you reporters and on-air talent. Ladies and gentlemen, this same Jason Whitlock that wants to talk smack about me is the same Jason Whitlock that wanted to hire me. It's the same Jason Whitlock that stood outside doors trying to get me and coax me into even having a conversation with them because they knew I was so disgusted with him, presumably after he hit a strip club. Because we all know ain't nobody trying to go out with him. Okay? The same Jason Whitlock, that guy, is the same guy that sent both Dan Lebertard and Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas, the two-time champion, the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest point guards in NBA history, now working on NBA TV. That guy, that same Jason Whitlock, sent those folks to talk to me. Please, is there something that could be worked out? Can you forgive him? Can you talk to him? My words and my promise to them was that I want nothing to do with him. I will never hurt him from getting opportunities, but I'll be damned if I'm going to help him by being associated with him in any way. Do you know why I said that, ladies and gentlemen? As black people, and I guess I was wrong. I should say at this particular moment in time, I was wrong to call him a fat bastard or a roach and all of this other stuff, because that's not my name for him. My name for Jason Whitlock is religiously Cain. C-A-I-N. You see, a lot of black folks, we talk about how we're the original man on the face of this earth. Well, that means Cain was the original murderer, because he's the one, according to the Bible, who killed Abel. That's Jason Whitlock. There is nothing good about him. Absolutely nothing. And I challenge anybody that knows anything about him to refute what I'm saying. I have the facts. They're all here. I know what he's done. The biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes that John Skipper could have ever made as the former boss of ESPN was hiring that man. Everyone knows it. That's why he attacks ESPN. That's why he attacks colleagues and contemporaries in the industry. It's not just because he thinks he's smarter. It's not just because he's fearful of anybody smarter than him in the same room. It's not just because of those reasons. It's because he truly despises us all. It's who he is. And the funny part about it is, when he sits up there and he says, you know, I can't do this or I can't do that. Look, I'm 56 years old. If y'all think now that I'm successful in this business, that I gotta sit here and lie about me playing basketball in high school to write in my own damn memoir, at this point in time in my life, I can't help y'all. I'm not gonna waste my time with that silliness. What I would say to you, however, is this. I have a bestseller. Where's his? I got let go by ESPN and they brought me back. They won't let him in within city limits. I'm telling you what I know. How the Fox thing work out? When he was on the air arguing with Christopher Broussard or arguing with Marcellus Wiley? What happened to him? He wants to talk about me. That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, he'd give anything to have my job. He'd give anything to have my resume. He ain't on ESPN. I got the #1 show. Where his show do? How his show do? You ever see this despicable dude on television? I'm not even getting into how difficult he is to look at. I'm saying, have you ever listened to him? Who wants him? I don't speak like this, ladies and gentlemen, but what else? What other explanation is there other than his evil, vile tendencies than you want to be me? You wish you were in this position, didn't you? Don't you? You wish you had the #1 show for 12 years, don't you? You wish you could do that, don't you? You wish you could be on national television every day, don't you? It ain't bragging. I work for it. Everybody else works for it. The only person people out here trying to hurt people is you. You have literally made a career off talking about people in the industry who do what you do. In other words, you don't want to do it better. Then why don't you have a job outside of Blaze TV? Why are you at Blaze TV? Not to knock Blaze TV, but we know that's not where you want it to be. You want to be at ESPN. You want to be running the black website. You want to go to Fox. You want to be on television. You want to do all of these things. Jason Whitlock, what's up? Are you watching the show? I mean, it ain't Club Shay Shay where you break the internet with the Cat Williams interview, but I do pick up at least 1,500 subscribers per day. I am at over 460,000. I just started 9 months ago with my team. You've been at it, whether it's May of 2021 or July of 2021. You've been at it since then. I've already surpassed you. Sound familiar? Because it's what I've been doing to you your entire career. You were a great writer. Your mistake was you started talking. And words wanting to be seen while you were talking. Which is why your quality and your value plummeted. Because when we see you and we listen to you, we know how worthless you are. This is a dude that, according to reports, literally tried to put a tape recorder under a hotel door to spy on what Allen Iverson was having to say. According to this article in Deadspin, he plagiarized one of his own editors. Somebody with these credentials, with this history of iniquities, with this disgusting reputation, y'all want to listen to him talk about me, fine, but let me leave you with this before I get on out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, you know why he's talking about me? because I get him clicks. That's what he's been reduced to. See, this is a passion and a hobby for me. I have a day job that's paying me quite well. I own and operated this. This cost me money because I invested my own money with my new studio, with my staff, and with everything that I've done to do this. He's leaning on Blaze for a check because he can't find one anywhere else. I ask any of you connected to this industry from this point forward, because I know my colleagues. They don't want to touch this subject because he's a bully, and they don't want to deal with the fallout of him constantly coming at them. I don't give a shit. He came to the one. I know what he is. I have the emails. I have the articles. I have everything. I once tried to befriend this dude. I don't talk to him because he betrayed me. As he has others. He's turned his back on Dan Lebertard. He's turned his back on all of those other colleagues that I mentioned. Ask Jamel Hill about him. Ask Dan Lebertard. Ask Chris Broussard. Let me stop naming names. Ask anybody in the industry. I can give you the names of the executives if you want. All of them. At Fox, the executives, upon telling their subordinates that they were bringing Jason Whitlock on board, said, quote, "We'll all band together and stand on the tracks in front of a train to stop it, if that would prevent you from hiring him here." He is despised. He doesn't report anymore, y'all. All he does is make noise by coming after the very people who did and still does what he once did, what he aspires to do, but no longer has the outlet to do because he is considered a vile, despicable human being that no one wants anything to deal with. Nothing. That's who he is. I will not be speaking on him anymore. He's a liar. He's a piece of shit. My apologies to ESPN. My apologies to my family, my friends, my staff, my employees. My apologies to Fox for staining their name by even mentioning the fact that he was once there. My apologies to John Skipper. My apologies to Dan Lebertard and Stu Gotts and their show. My apologies to Jamel Hill. I didn't even mention Kerry Champion. He was insulting to her, along with others. Whether it's Amina Kimes, whether it's Monica McNutt, it's Kimberly. He got something to say about everybody. Molly Kiram, my matriarch for First Take every weekday. My apologies to everybody that you had to see me out of character to address this dude. But I asked for everybody indulgence for one show and one show only. And please do not allow this to be a reflection on my character, because this is not how I act every day. But I mean it from my soul when I say this is the worst human being I've ever known. I don't know of another human being worse than Jason Whitlock. He is a piece of shit. He's the dude that's gonna have a funeral and ain't gonna be no pallbearers. Might be 2 people to show up. He's that dude. He is the absolute worst. And he lies. And he incriminates. And he tries to set people up to fail, to big up himself because he can't do it on his own. He had a television show. He failed. He's had opportunities one time after another. He doesn't measure up. And now he's coming at the big dog. And let me tell you something right now. I am the big dog. I ain't the only one. I ain't the only one. There's plenty. Skip Bayless, apologies to him too for bringing up Jason Whitlock's name in the same sentence as him. But we all know what time it is. Everyone knows. All the executives at all the networks, they know what a piece of shit he is. And they begged me not to do this. But even my pastor, A.R. Bernard, said, I'm not happy about it. But every now and then we gotta do what we gotta do. I promise you, and last to my sister Carmen, I won't do this again. I promise you. I know you cringing, you didn't want me to do this. I'm sorry, sis. It was necessary. He's a sorry, fat piece of shit. A no of the worst order. That's who he is. And I want to make sure everybody knows that. And I said to Isaiah Thomas, and I said to Dan Lebertard, if you care anything about our friendship, don't ever call me about him again. I'm a very forgiving person. Not with him. I don't care what beef I had. I don't care how many of you out there that hate me, whatever former athletes, all this stuff. Man, please, I'm sorry. Because I certainly don't hate y'all. We might have our differences from time to time, but ain't never that. This is the exception. I hate this bastard. Not even, far more than a little bit. He is the worst human being any of you will ever meet. You get within a mile of his presence. Wrap your arms around yourself to protect your soul. He is Cain. He is a devil. The worst. That's all I have to say. Y'all have a nice day. I'm gonna go about my business. I will not speak about this piece of shit again. Peace and love.
Stephen A. Make him say, that was the boy Stephen A. Man, just put his spinatry down, man, for the last 45 minutes, man. Oh my God. Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. On a serious note, man, let Vino put his spinatry to it. You already know what it is, man. It's Vino's point of view. My spinatry, my point of view is, look, at the end of the day, it's a sad thing, man. 2 brothers, 2 black men going at it. I wish everybody could just get along, man. You already know we've seen with the Cat Williams thing. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, they like all black. We got everybody beefing now. We need to just come together, man. But listen, I don't know Jason Whitlock's side of the story. I had to get his story too. I put my spinatry to that. But Stephen A. just went off, you know what I'm saying? But it's it's unfortunate, man. It's money out here to be made, man. I don't know why we doing all that, but yeah, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I wish we could do better. All people, especially us blacks, you know, the killing and all the stuff going on today, man. We could be focusing on other stuff rather than beefing with each other. Black people are the strongest nation if we just come together, man. We've seen it before. So we too busy just trying to break each other now, man. It's terrible. But listen, man, that's my spinatry. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe. And I'll get back at y'all another day.